Matt's gonna walk me through a position that he's been utilizing that I absolutely love. And I just want to kind of go through it here. Okay, so we're gonna sit down.
Yep.
And go ahead.
So for me, well, at this time, I'm gonna switch hips. So
you're on my non-dominant side now.
Okay, yeah. Okay. But this is good though.
Okay.
So, yep, basically support my neck, come under tibial tuberosity, and just kind of drive me up, but let me go, boom.
I could probably hold that out a little sooner, right? Come back up. Be not like this, because this I have a lot of support.
Yeah.
At the same time, I don't want to have to pull my arm out, like underneath.
Yeah, no, that's why I do it. It is like a baptism, man. Like, so I actually have hypothenar eminence, this outside of my hand, underneath, basically at the base of the neck, so that way I'm cradling the head, and then that's kind of the last thing that sets down, because then for you, you're bringing my leg up to the point where like my low back's able to flatten out, and you're able to actually work with my tissues here.
Lay you down, starting position, point A, hip and hand.
Yep.
Okay, hip and hand. Now, talk me through this.
So this is where I start to change stuff up, because I could use my arms to keep driving and doing that motion.
Right, pushing.
But even from here, it's like I want my hip, just like you're doing with your right hip now on my left leg.
Yeah.
You're supporting that. Otherwise, if you didn't support that with your hip, man, you'd have to probably do some kind of a weird support my foot underneath your elbow, brace up into the crease of my knee or whatever that is. So it's like, okay, we're already using one of those points. Keep that same concept to draft motion and other angles. Extension of this hip may not be the only motion that you need to get. You might need to also work me, like my tendency here, like if you just let me go, you'll see how I naturally just want to adduct. I'm very tight through my adductors there. So you can use your knee, and that's what I'd encourage you to do in this position here. We're going to use not the arms to swivel, but the hips to swivel. So for you,
okay, go ahead.
You find that first position where you got me where I need to be there. Now you're going to take your left leg, so you're setting up where my right knee's at, but you're stepping your ankle to the outside of my knee, but keeping kind of like our knees together, but your ankle's still underneath of my knee, but to the outside.
So my ankle is going to start drafting to my left.
It's just, it's just reaching out beyond mine. So what you're going to do, and the reason why it's there is because it's going to create the block and the light push for my hip to now go into abduction, because you got me an extension here with your arm, but you don't have me in the abduction piece yet, which is what I also need. There's two angles of tension. So what you're doing there, you're going to go into a lunge, but how you're going to do it is you're going to keep pressure with the outside of your knee to the inside of my knee.
There.
You're going to pivot. So you're going to start to orient yourself. You're going to be lunging. So your forward foot is your right foot. So go ahead and start to bend your knee, point the foot that way. Yes, and while you do that, straighten your left leg out. Because as you straighten and extend that, the outside of your leg is holding and pushing my leg out.
Yep.
So then from there, that's now just holding and bracing, both with your hand and your leg. Now this frees it up to find my motion in flexion, abduction, external rotation. But then once you've kind of held that there, let's just say I do some light resistance or whatever, we start to do some contract, relax, and now I might have a little bit more availability.
Yep.
Hold me there, but now you're going to switch your lunge back to the left. So now same concept here. You're going to drive your knee forward, point your toes out, and kind of, and as you're lunging into it, so you're going to find this. So start to go into that lunge. So you're straightening out the right leg.
Which is cranking this upward a little bit.
It's cranking it upward because, especially when you're turning.
It's going outward.
Yes, because when you're reorienting yourself, you're reorienting your pelvis in a way that is now putting pressure into flexion.
It almost feels like here, if I was exaggerated.
Yep.
Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, because what you're doing now is you're just walking my legs apart further.
It reminds me in jiu-jitsu, when we walk an arm up, you know how like if I do something where I'm behind an arm right here, and I start to walk and walk and walk and walk?
Yep.
It reminds me a little bit of that.
It's very similar to that. Yeah, it's very similar to that.
Hey, that's a write-off.
For sure.
Okay. Oh, I know the last thing they were showing me is on this side. So let's say I'm in here. Let me kind of get used to I'm here. And let's say, bring up that topic of, like, I can kind of, if I'm at mid-range, I can kind of step my heel up to here.
Oh, yeah.
When I get to end range, it's harder to do that on this side.
Yeah. Do you want me to show that?
Yeah, please.
As far as what they're going to be willing to go, but like, especially since like the closer we are to our end range, we're not doing like these high velocity type of like movements. Like we're just trying to find like, at least for us, like this passive elongation of these soft tissues. So for me, if I'm here and I already know we can get you way up there, that's quite a bit of motion. So for me, if I'm going to step with my foot, I can get away with taking a bigger step. But once I'm here, I can't take another big step because from here, you've really only got that much more range. So the step that's going to reflect a small amount of range isn't going to look like a big leap. It's going to look like this little shimmy. And as I shimmy my foot up, that's what's basically driving it. But that's where I was saying now that's not the only way to shimmy, because I can play with the mechanics of my hips here, because we can even see if I simply go to drive rotation, but rotation from my hip where I'm coming across, well, this movement across is now bringing that knee up even further, where I can simply now start to drive this knee out, and that's creating more abduction here. Leaning into you is also another variable I can play with, and we're still not even hands-on yet. So for here, that's where and this is where it goes so far beyond, because now let's say I also want to do something with you here. It's going to be really hard for me because gravity's going this way. It's going to be hard for us to do anything going up. But if we move perpendicular to gravity, it's really easy. So let's just say there might be tension along this line as well. I can start to shimmy with it this way. You know what I mean? And kind of play with that, where we can rock it. I mean, you can just do so many different things.
Tissue elongation on this side that you did on the other.
Oh, what I was talking about before, yeah. So if my focus is on flexor tissue, I know that the flexors of the hip don't just reside in the thigh. We have however you want to argue that, but iliopsoas group up top. So what I might do then is not necessarily thinking about the muscle, but thinking about just the tissue. Find ASIS, and I'm just going to push down a little bit and up, and that's going to spread the tissue more superiorly. Yeah, but then come down, grab the rest of the tissue, and start to pull it apart. And that's where you could start to get into abdominal work. I mean, shearing that any which way. And that's what I like too, because for here, go ahead and start to give me a little bit of so slowly. So I want you to think about stepping your heel down onto my foot. So you're going to use hip extension. So keep the knee, keep the knee right there. Don't bend it any further. Just put the foot flat down onto the floor. Find the floor.
Barely with my toes.
Don't do it with your toes. So stay neutral. Yep. Try to put that heel on there using hip extension.
I'm way too short.
What's up?
I'm too short to touch the ground.
Bro, I don't mean touch the ground. It's the motor intention to touch the ground.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah, you ain't going to get there.
That's the intent I'm going
Yeah, that's the intent. You're not actually going to do it. So, but what I'm saying is if you use hip extension, that's going to be like you're trying to drive the leg down. But by driving in through extension, so the more you try to go down toward the floor, the more pull you're going to be getting. Yep. But that's cool though too, because then this isn't all just a passive intervention. It's now also an active.
And then this part, take me to the top of the table. Do me the elevator.
Do you the elevator? So back out of here. And by the way, I don't know how legit this is, because I definitely wouldn't. First of all, I wouldn't come out of a huge pull that fast either, because that's intense. Yeah. But could bring it into something like this. Stabilize. Now don't leg press me, but with your arms, kind of guide yourself back up onto the table and use me as a stability.
Just a little crawl. And once you get towards the bottom, then it's easy to just want to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I also think, whether it's by design or not, since I got that big stretch and you passively kind of got me back in here, just getting a little bit of active motion through that, even though it's again, it just goes, okay, wow, a little something that hip.
Yeah, yep.